Happy Sunday. Friends, lovers, thank you for joining us. This is 5 Minutes with Robert Nasir, and I am here, as always, with my beautiful co-host, Amy Nasir.
That is moi.
In fact, if we were here to talk about marriage, she'd be the perfect person to be here with.
That would be true.
I wonder. This is 5 Minutes with Robert Nasir, and today is Sunday, August 30th, 2020, the 243rd day.
243.
With just 123 days left until 2021.
123 days.
Crazy.
That's just a little bit shy of 90 days, which means 3 months.
It's almost over. There are just 117 shopping days left until Christmas, and just 62 days left until Halloween.
Yes, and we're going to probably be starting to decorate our house, like the outside, pretty soon. Probably another week or so.
You won't believe the Halloween successes we had this week.
Yes.
Amy's been shopping.
Yes. It is fantastic what I found at Big Lot.
Big Lots of all places. We went to Party City, we went to Target, we went to stores.
Yeah.
But who had the very best stuff?
The most creative with reasonable prices, it was Big Lots.
Big Lots.
And they had a great selection, and it was very, very cool.
Crazy. So if
I was like, capitalism, yes.
Yes. If you are out there looking for Halloween goodies and decorations and creative stuff and lots of active electronics and motorized things, but clever. Yeah, if you've got Big Lots where you live, hit them up. Check them out. 62 days until Halloween. 62, that's like 2 months.
You don't have much time left, folks.
I'll tell you. Today, August 30th, is also Jennifer Lawrence's 30th birthday. Oh. For those of you who remember The Hunger Games.
Right.
Well, she's done a lot of films since then, but...
Yeah, and she's a pretty feisty actress. She seems very down to earth.
She is. It's fun. Check out her interviews. You can, YouTube and all the talk shows that she's been on. She's feisty. She's saucy.
Yeah, she's saucy.
And that's cool. She's occasionally, all the things you get when you're feisty and saucy. She can be annoying. She can be politically frustrating. Doesn't matter. She's clever and she's saucy. So check her out. Happy birthday, Jennifer Lawrence. It's also National Toasted Marshmallow Day.
Oh, that's good because we have a fire pit out and back.
So we have toasted a lot of marshmallows, but we are not done yet.
No, we're not.
If you have marshmallows, toast one. If you don't, get some. Also, happy 90th birthday to Warren Buffett. Did you know Warren Buffett is still alive? He's still out there doing his Warren Buffett things?
Is he cryogenically frozen? Is his brain transferred into a jar, into a robot?
Could have been. Probably Walt Disney. Warren Buffett, happy 90th birthday. It's interesting, too, because some of the wealthiest people in the world attract all sorts of venom. Mm-hmm. You say Bill Gates, and a few people still love him out there. We certainly do. But, he's trying to get everybody to take vaccines, or, he's giving away all of his money. What an altruist. Warren Buffett is the seventh richest person in the world. Mm-hmm. And when you think of Warren Buffett, all you think of is, that was a cool guy. Right. Is a cool guy. Very smart, very wise, knows about money.
Right.
I want to be Warren Buffett.
I could go on a rant about this. But I don't know, should I?
And we probably will. Is it about Warren Buffett being worth $78 billion?
It's about rich people. It's about how folks, especially those people who actually have earned their wealth.
Yes,
they
like Warren Buffett has.
They're not the Queen of England. And heck, they're not even Jennifer Lawrence, who makes millions of dollars doing something that seems pretty fun. Or sports figures, who make millions of dollars doing something that they love to do. And they're not hated for it because they entertain us and we understand them. But, here comes entrepreneurs and business people, and we don't understand what they do. We can't appreciate what they do, and therefore we hate them because we think that they just have all the world, have all the servants and things like that. Well, it's not necessarily how they live. Steve Jobs didn't live that way. A lot of people didn't live that way, but even if they did live that way, that would be their choice, and they would actually be providing jobs. So, but really, what's most important to know is that each individual has a life of their own. no matter how much money you have, it's up to you to figure out how you want to be happy in life. And even if you have lots of money, you're not going to know exactly how to live in a happy life. So money doesn't necessarily buy happiness, but you've just got to see them for what they are. They're good people who have created tremendous value, and they have spread it around, and so many other people are getting so much from it.
If you look at the history of the companies that Warren Buffett's been associated with, in particular the Berkshire Hathaway Industries, but all of the companies that he's invested in and angeled, and Yaron Brook has been pointing this out every time he talks about this issue, the only way you end up with $78 billion in assets is by creating well over $78 billion in value and trading it out there. People don't get rich because they went out and stole a little money from everybody. Everybody who's ever traded with, whether it's Steve Jobs and Tim Cook and anybody at Apple or anybody at Microsoft or anybody at any of the companies associated with Berkshire Hathaway, did it because they got something more out of what they were buying than what they were spending. So yes, these people are great heroes. And
they deserve to do whatever they want.
That's right. So happy birthday, Jennifer Lawrence, but especially happy 90th birthday, Warren Buffett.
Yes. Happy birthday.
How awesome.
Yes.
So this week we have been talking about marriage.
Marriage is what brings us
here
together.
Since we just had movie night, and Princess Bride, of course, is one of those must-see movies.
Yes.
So anytime you say marriage is what brings us here together, people think of the what's the word they used in the credits? Not pompous. It was the silly officiant at the marriage.
Yes.
So we've been talking about marriage this week, and what we're going to talk about tonight for 5 minutes is a callback to a few previous episodes as well. We talked way back in episode 8 in April about trust and forgiveness.
Right.
And my point was, trust is really just knowing somebody. Trusting somebody doesn't mean having blind faith, but in knowing enough about them that you know to trust them. And then the next episode, episode 9, Unconditional Love, controversial episode. What do you mean unconditional? Does that mean blind faith? Does that mean you don't take your values seriously? We blew that out of the water. Go back and listen to that one. It'll be in the show notes if you don't remember.
Yep.
The next episode on efficacy, in which we discussed masculinity and femininity. And finally, episode 17, so go forward a month and a half, we talked about politics and love. What do you mean politics and love? Well, that was fun. We talked about the 3 languages of politics. Arnold Kling broke down politics between conservatives and liberals and libertarians and gave us a way to bridge the gap of understanding between those. And we compared that to the 5 languages of love, the 5 different love styles that people can have. And in all of those 4 episodes, episodes 8, 9, 10, and 17,
wow,
I referred to some degree to the notes I made previously about marriage. And in particular, the 10 unpopular truths that I've given out before. And the 5 secrets of a successful marriage. And I've promised to do an episode on marriage. And dash it all, now it's time.
It's here, folks.
See, back in 2014, I think I started it all with the GlowCon talk.
Yes.
We've done an annual convention every year except for this year. But we've done an annual convention every year, 7 of them, where people have come from near and far to attend Great Lakes Objectivist Conference. Annual conference, GlowCon. And GlowCon 2, in 2014, I gave a talk called Marriage, What, Why, How. And that kind of started the ball rolling. And I based it on my secrets for a successful marriage. And I'm going to read a couple of those secrets of a successful marriage. I should sometimes say 4, but really it should be secrets of a successful marriage. Secrets of this successful marriage.
Yeah.
But secrets for any successful marriage. And I'm going to throw one at you right at the start.
What's that?
To get this ball rolling. And this may be the most important secret of a successful marriage.
Okay. Because
it gets back to my 10 unpopular truths. One of my unpopular truths, I wrote it, I printed it out. Where is it here? Unpopular truth number 2. You, not usually my attitude, but you and most everybody else don't know what marriage is. Which is why most marriages don't work. I should put down the papers and use the pointy finger.
Oh, not most.
Which is why most marriages don't work or don't work well. Marriage is a personal, legal, and public declaration that two people are now to be regarded as a unit. That's it. That's what it is. Marriage is a public declaration and legal commitment to romance, shared property, and responsibilities. If you know this, use this knowledge in deciding whether to marry and how to conduct your marriage accordingly, and you have a reasonable chance of success. Of course, everybody out there who has a successful marriage is like, yeah, I know that. So following up with that, secrets of a successful marriage, number 1. Number 1, define your terms, you see now. When I get to knowing what marriage is. Define your terms. This is number 1, and it needs to be number 1. It's a wonder there are any successful marriages at all, and no wonder why so many fail. When the majority of folks can't answer the question, what is this marriage stuff anyway? If you wanted to be successful in any activity, it's pretty important to know what the activity is. Baseball is a game. Business is production and trade. Literature is an art. Laundry is the cleaning of clothing. So, what is marriage? So you've got folks doing comments here. Has anybody answered the question yet? Feel free to chime in. We are doing comments and questions both on Facebook and on YouTube. YouTube is working this week. That's great. Good to see Brittany on there.
Yes. Thank you, Brittany.
Excellent. So there's a lot to say about what marriage is. And fortunately, just 2 critical aspects to master.
Okay. Just 2?
Just 2. Well, there's the 3 elements of what a marriage is, and those are in number 1 here of the 2. 1. Marriage is a legal, logistical, and romantic relationship. Mm-hmm. And here's the controversial bit. Each element is essential.
Okay.
Well, why is that controversial? Because I have so many friends. You know, when you hang out in like libertarian circles.
Or, people who like to think abstractly, you mean?
People who think liberty before everything else. There are so many people who say, well, the government shouldn't be involved in marriage. I don't want the government in my marriage. Always in that tone of voice. Even when you're reading it on paper, you can hear the tone of voice. But marriage is necessarily, one of the 3 elements is legal.
Right.
It is legal, it is contractual, and that affects marriage in many, many ways. Powerful ways, good ways. Mm-hmm. So marriage is a legal, logistical, and romantic relationship. Each element is essential. If you don't have those 3 elements, what you have may be called a marriage, but only by extension. Number 2, marriage is a public declaration to the world at large, including the legal system, that from this moment on, 2 people are to be regarded as one unit. In law, in terms of family and household, and in terms of romance, 2 people are one.
Well, why is that good?
Well, tease out all the specific ways that these 2 facts impact your relationship with your spouse and your relationship with the rest of the world. And you will know what marriage is. And in the process, you'll have gathered many of the secrets of a successful marriage.
I think there's a lot to tease out in all of that.
I agree. So Linda, I'm going to take a sip of my watery champagne here.
My non-champagne champagne.
And lately we talk about what we're drinking, but tonight we're just drinking water in champagne glasses.
Yeah, I have ice water.
In champagne glasses. To marriage.
So Linda Cordair of Cordair.com says marriage is a partnership.
Marriage is a partnership. And that unit perspective, that fact that 2 people become one unit, become a married couple, become a partnership, I can't overemphasize that enough. Anything less than that I regard as a marriage of convenience. There may be other reasons to get married, but that ain't marriage. Not in the sense we're talking about today.
I think
marriage
that's why,
is a partnership.
For a lot of folks, up until I don't know how many years ago, it was illegal for gays and lesbians to get married.
Mm-hmm.
And then
some
after
states
that,
came earlier, but
yeah,
if you want to count the whole nation, we're only talking about 4 years. We mentioned that before.
Right. So a lot of folks definitely value that kind of public declaration, that public partnership, that legal partnership, all of that.
Yes.
And there are a lot of really excellent reasons. I think one of them, off the top of my head, if anybody has anything they want to chime in, please go ahead and chime into the comments. Is that if you have a partner and one partner dies, sadly they would pass away perhaps, then it's easy for the other partner, the surviving partner, to have access to their home, their car, their bank account, everything. It's a pretty simple deal in that way.
Yeah.
And there isn't anything that's contested necessarily, not unless you have a will that says otherwise.
Well, even with a will, though, back it up a step.
Yeah.
In the case of serious illness.
Right.
Or potentially fatal illness, medical rights.
Yes.
Under a marriage are very different. Visitation rights and even access to decisions about when to extend care.
Yeah.
That legally recognized marriage makes all the difference in the world. And there are heartbreaking cases, whether you're talking about gay marriage or just domestic partnerships, where people have had difficulty getting their rights recognized in making decisions for their ailing partner. You can't and shouldn't take the law out of marriage. Now, since you brought up gay marriage, I had mentioned at the time, this would be going back 6 years, some might argue that raising a family belongs in here somewhere. See, while I'd certainly agree that a successful marriage does provide the ideal context for raising children, there are also many counterexamples. Too many for that aspect to be definitional. Children can be, and are, conceived and successfully raised outside of wedlock. And likewise, childless couples can and should be married for all the same essential reasons as couples who are expecting children. So certainly the introduction of children into the relationship is common, precisely because the legal and logistical and loving framework provided by marriage is ideal for providing that environment and structure and the stability for a lifetime commitment that producing little versions of you requires. But what marriage is, while that makes it ideal for raising children, the raising of children isn't what makes marriage what it is.
Right.
It's the best conceivable, bad joke. It's the best prerequisite for raising children, but raising children is not a prerequisite for marriage.
Right. That's an add-on. That's just,
and when we talked
about a la carte.
When we talked about children, when we've talked about child raising, when we talked about issues like abortion, I always immediately say that having kids is the single best thing you can do. It's the single greatest project. It's the single highest value. When I look at everything I've done in my life, there's nothing, whether it's my multi-million-dollar career or my successful businesses or my amazing podcast, nothing that I've done compares to my daughter. That will be, that is already my greatest mark on the world. So I don't mean to say that raising children isn't a magnificent part of many marriages. But again, children can be raised outside of marriage, and marriage can be had without children. So that becomes, in the conversation we're having, a side issue, an add-on.
Yep. And Brittany says, marriage is two individuals with completely individual journeys choosing to walk them together or walk together.
Well, that's true in
Yeah.
that the best marriages are between people who are secure in themselves, who have
Right.
their own values, who have a
Yes.
life.
You work on yourself first.
Yes.
Yeah, that reminds me of the Antoine de Saint-Exupéry quote, the one gentleman who wrote The Little Prince. Love does not consist of gazing at each other, well, sometimes it can, but in looking outward together in the same direction.
Nice.
That's a good quote.
It's a good quote for people who tend to be dependent or codependent, I think is the word people like to use now.
People who get a little too clingy, you mean?
Because I tend to be the opposite.
Yes.
I'm inclined to think that, no, I don't want to be that independent with my marriage partner. I actually want us inextricably linked in every conceivable way. I want us to be, well, maybe not codependent, all
No.
the things that implies,
No.
but absolutely dependent. Without my wife, there's no Robert, there's no me, there's nothing left. Now, if something were to happen to my wife, I would eventually recover, I would eventually have a life again, but no, I can't really think of us as two people walking independently.
Well, having like separate journeys.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
I can't imagine that.
Oh, I see. Well, perhaps
I know
separate
people-
purposes, separate
No.
kinds of jobs. I mean, you have to have the same kind of life in the sense that.
No,
you-
I get it, and
Yeah.
and that's why I do appreciate that idea,
Yeah.
because there are people who are so dependent on one another that there is no them, there's no individual, there's no,
Right.
and they never develop their own values, they never develop their own goals, and so they never do anything. They
Right.
never create anything, they never accomplish anything, and they realize over time there's nothing actually to love about one another because there is no one another, there's just these two people trying to make a meaning without having already made some, so I
Yeah.
understand
Yeah,
that.
codependency is not cool.
Codependency is not cool.
Brittany,
Absolutely.
Yeah, Brittany says children grow up and create families of their own, and marriage must be based on far more than raising children together. It needs to be about the couple and its
Yes.
foundation.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Brittany. Yeah.
So, yeah, certainly my first secret of a successful marriage, number one, is know what marriage is. These were originally written over Valentine's Day week.
Yeah.
So on day 2 of Valentine's week, see, I think Valentine's should be a week, not just a day. Day
A
2,
month. It should be a month.
that could get expensive. On day 2, I wrote Marriage and the Virtue of Pride. Of the 7 objectivist virtues, specifically discussed in Atlas Shrugged, pride sometimes gets the shortest shrift. There's a tongue twister for you. Can you do that one 5 times fast?
Wait, what is it again?
Shortest shrift.
Oh, shortest shrift?
Amy does tongue twisters 10 times better than me, but every now and then we still get one that gets
I
her.
also speak French. Je parle français un peu. Un
Yes.
peu.
Well, she speaks French about 1,000 times better than I do. Pride sometimes gets the shortest shrift when it comes to discussions about marriage. Don't let this happen to you. It's obvious that consistent, principled honesty and integrity are prerequisites to long-term matrimonial happiness. Similarly, rationality, productiveness, justice. And yes, in a healthy marriage, this is per Brittany, independence is especially important.
Yep.
But what does it mean to be proud of your spouse? See, it means not just that fun feeling that comes from always having a hottie on your arm. Not that there's anything wrong with that. But the active ambition to nurture, defend, and enjoy your marriage. See, we've talked about pride is a virtue and not a value. The value is self-esteem. Pride is actually how you earn self-esteem. So, when you perform your work, doing your job with pride, when you care for and maintain your home or your automobile, when you nurture your children, when you stay in shape, groom and dress yourself well, it's clear that pride is more than just the value of self-esteem. It is an active virtue. So, the care and maintenance of your spouse requires that you love, nurture, and defend your loved one with pride, just as you do your profession or your home, your automobile, your body. So ask yourself, am I proud of my spouse? And be prepared to answer, not just in regard to their virtue, but in regard to yours.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so my day 2 advice is find out what's meant by pride. Not feeling pride, but acting with pride.
Well, we also have a whole episode on pride, if anybody wants to look that up.
Darn straight. Yeah,
Darn straight.
And we spent a good 5 minutes teasing out the distinction between self-esteem, the value, and pride, the virtue.
Yes. Oh, Linda says Valentine's should be a lifetime.
Valentine's should be a lifetime.
Yes,
Well,
yes.
I did talk about that when I said, I love you, I love you, I love you. I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you. At some point, you don't want to hear I love you.
La 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 la.
So you are right. Linda, of course, Linda's always right. But
Yes,
especially
yes.
here, she's right. But there is a reason to set aside times to make a point rather than just to say it over and over. Even if you mean it, saying it over and over again, saying the same thing 60 times a minute, 60 minutes an hour, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, just might not be able to keep up the specialness of it.
Mm-hmm. But Jennifer does say, J'aime aimer Robert.
Which,
And I
of
say,
course,
à
Amy
toi
understands, and I have no idea what that means.
And then I say, à toi aussi, Jennifer. Je t'aime. À bientôt.
And, of course, I don't understand that. Let me go back to what Linda said, because I understand what Linda said.
Oh, Jennifer says, I love Amy and Robert. And I say,
Oh, merci.
And you also, Jennifer. I love you and see you soon.
Ah, okay. Thank you for translating. See, they don't in the Q&A. They don't have the usual translate all comments for the idiots like me who can't read every language that's thrown
Someday,
at us.
I just might actually teach you French.
That's right. Well,
and then
send
we'll
it
be
in
able
Spanish.
to-
If you sent it in Spanish, I'd probably be able to get it.
Yeah.
These guys. So, secrets of a successful marriage number 3.
Oh, there's more. What?
Just time for a quick one on day 3. No editing. A quirky Robert Nasir kind of item. Aren't these all quirky Robert Nasir kind of items? A quirky Robert Nasir kind of item, but a very valuable secret and one which applies to marriage as well as family, friends, and acquaintances.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we've talked about this before. And that's why this show isn't just for people who are married or want to be married or care about marriage. Number 3, never forget how you feel about the people you love.
Yeah.
This is one we've discussed before. Love is an emotion, but it is concomitantly, at the same time and in the same ways and same relationships,
Concomitantly.
concomitantly.
Like that word.
Love is concomitantly an evaluation.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just something you feel, but it's a judgment that's made.
And something that you can introspect on because feelings can actually be understood.
This is
Emotions
true, too.
can be translated into thoughts and experiences.
Mm-hmm. And here's the thing. There may be moments when you don't feel the emotion, but never, ever allow yourself to forget the evaluation,
Which can be hard.
which can be hard. Hey, I didn't
But-
say it was going to be easy. I just said it was going to be absolutely necessary. If you already know the value of each person in your life, then it should be easy. Just make sure that whatever your relationship's ups and downs, you stay aware of your partner's place in the value hierarchy of your life.
Yeah, I think you're pointing a little bit too much.
I am. I am. I'm having a Bob Carvinen moment.
Yes,
There's
you
a good
are.
friend of ours from our group that passed away years ago. Great guy. One of his habits, one of the things he did the thing you're not supposed to do, which he pointed at people right in their face. And it's funny because when we think of him now, it's endearing, even though, of course, at the time it was annoying, but we miss the guy, so
Yes, we do. And we love him.
yes. And never forget how you, even if you don't feel it, never forget how you feel about the people in your life.
Yeah, I'd like to just chime in here. This is something that Gretchen Rubin, who is a great resource for this.
We've talked about Gretchen Rubin before.
Yes, Gretchen Rubin. And of course, there's the Selfish Path to Romance by Ellen Kenner and Ed Locke, which is wonderful,
lots of resources. But we've talked about Gretchen Rubin.
Yeah, Gretchen Rubin is
the Happiness
very
Project.
Good. So she says, use gentle language. So,
use gentle language.
Yeah, so the idea of never forgetting why you love somebody, it's something that you should, of course, understand why you do love them. And it's easier if you use gentle language. So, and you just remind yourself of the positive things making the positive argument, what is going right instead of what's going wrong. And you can, instead of saying, her example is, do you know where the latest copy of the New Yorker is? Rather than, did you throw away the New Yorker before I read it the way you always do? It's an excellent example of checking what you're saying to your spouse.
But if I don't say it the second way, you'll just throw it out again.
Oh, so it's difficult sometimes to not blurt things out because you're so close to the person. They're with you almost every day. Hopefully they are. So you have to just kind of step back and ask yourself, am I being gentle with what I'm saying here? Would I want to be talked to this way? Of course. And if you've got that kind of negative self-talk, it's going to come out onto your spouse. So it's always very important to introspect. It's very important to journal as well. But it's better to say just what the question is instead of adding judgments or negative evaluations into it.
Yeah, I find it's best to not try to get things done or to get things to change with your attitude. Better to do that with your words.
Yeah. And so she has a number of things, but go on to what you're going to be saying next.
Okay, yeah, just to wrap up that point.
Yeah.
If you've never consciously, conceptually thought about the measure of the importance of your spouse or your parents or your kids or your friends even, and maybe especially your pets, then it's important that you do that ASAP. Now, to some, this might be obvious, but I'm surprised how many do not practice this simple procedure. Knowing explicitly and staying conscious of somebody's importance in your life, it does more than just help you get through hard times. It does more than just help you maintain your gratitude. It also makes celebrating easier and more fulfilling as your values become more present to you, more consistent, more urgent. And when you're angry or disappointed at, say, your spouse, you can also stay conscious that this is someone important to you, someone you love, your partner and your ally, never your opponent. You know, we've said before in regard to allies, there are real enemies out there in the world, real opposition. Never let yourself think of your friends, your family, and especially your soulmate as anything but allies, teammates, as Linda says, partners. If you love someone, love them well. Love them seriously and love them all of the time, whether you feel it in every moment or not.
Yes.
That's point 3.
That's excellent.
Thank you.
Jennifer says, love is emotion in motion. That's sweet. And then she says, that's a Cars song, I think.
Actually, that was Billy Squier.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Emotions in motion.
And then she says, even when they are pissing you off. All right. There you go. And don't put them on the defensive, Jennifer
Emotions
says.
in motion. That is related to a Cars song. Now I have to think of the one.
Yeah, but here's one from Linda. She says, I'm going to record the, quote, Linda Cordair is always right, unquote, and download it as my ringtone.
But maybe I was wrong.
That's fantastic. No, you were not. Linda is always right. So on that note, how much more do you have
So
here?
tip 4 is fairly psychological, and I'm just going to skip it. And the reason is because I'm going to put links to these in the show notes anyway,
Okay,
if anybody
good.
wants to spend some time playing around with these. So I'm going to skip right to the end, to Secrets of a Successful Marriage, Day 5. And I've mentioned this before on the podcast. The answer is always yes. If he asks for a kiss, the answer is yes. If she asks for a foot rub, the answer is yes, etc., ad infinitum. And no faking. You've got to learn how to always want your answer to be yes. But this is surprisingly 1, simple, 2, doable, 3, unusual, 4, challenging, and 5, rewarding. That's it. The answer is always yes. As Robert Heinlein said,
Yeah.
budget the luxuries first. That was one of his secrets for a successful marriage.
Luxuries don't cost too much money.
Well, it teaches you to stretch. You know, I used to be a fast food restaurant manager,
Yeah.
but that wasn't going to cut it for the kind of life I wanted, especially with my spouse. So that's why I had to become, a multi-millionaire.
No, you're not. Not really.
Oh, that's right. The government took most of that.
Yes, they did.
There's a night and day difference between spoiling a child and being really wonderful with them.
Well, and the idea of putting luxuries first. Think of it in terms of being romantic, finding the most adventurous and lovely thing that you can about the particular day, even if you're not spending any money. Go out into nature, go walk in a park, find things that are just delightful and point them out to your loved one.
Exactly right. When we talked about weekends and holidays, and how to avoid birthdays and Christmas and gift-giving holidays being stressful.
Right.
You're absolutely right. And I'm exaggerating a little bit when I talk about price no object. But in a certain sense, that's true. And if your finances don't allow that, there are creative ways to get around those limitations. And creativity for the win.
And with that, one of the things that Oprah tells us.
Oprah. What does Oprah tell us?
She says, regularly tell your partner what you love about them. Yeah. And it can't just all necessarily be the same thing, like, your eyes are so beautiful.
I'm glad you found that advice. I love that about you, that you found that advice.
Thank you. And you'll love this even more because I have typed out.
What have you typed out?
Five things.
You can't see it, but she's holding her hands up, so I can't read what's on her screen. I'm going to take my clear champagne here and ignore you.
It's 5 things that I currently really love about Robert.
Oh my goodness!
And
I don't know if you're on the spot or I'm on the spot here.
I think we both are. So number 1.
Are you sure you can share these with the public?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I've been doing these Zoom couch to standing workouts. The couch to standing is just me being silly because.
That's right. If you haven't gotten in on Amy's exercise routines,
yes,
on Facebook, join the group.
They're good.
Join in.
They're half an hour long. They're not too strenuous. I can teach you all sorts of things, even how to not be so strenuous with yourself and doing just listening to your body and everything.
Yep. Schedule is subject to change, but there's 1 in the afternoon, 2 on weekday mornings.
Yes.
It's great.
I may be expanding to 5 days actually. So Robert has been doing these exercises with me 99% of the time. I think you missed 1. But I get him up when he's dead tired. And I say, Robert, I'm on in 15 minutes. So he scrambles, he gets everything set up in the kitchen, and he has the nice little exercise mat there, and he does them with me.
Of course I do.
And I
don't know how
so
you people can
happy.
resist getting in an exercise routine with this woman. It's irresistible.
So I'm just happy to know when he tells me how he's benefiting from the exercises that I'm doing and what I'm teaching and how it's helping him with some strength issues and things like that. And I'm just so overwhelmed with pride and joy, and it's such a mutual admiration when he does this. So FYI.
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 Wait, that's for your information. Okay.
Wink, wink. So, oh, and so during my vacation, he was entirely supportive of everything I wanted to do on my vacation. He even found ways to enjoy himself as well. It's not like I was doing things that he would necessarily enjoy, but everything that I did, he was entirely supportive, and he's like, yeah, let's do it. All right. And we did it. We did things that we haven't done in years and years. They were physically challenging. They were mentally challenging. They were sometimes even emotionally challenging. But we got through it. Not just that, but we've had a wonderful, wonderful time doing it. And we've created memories that we're going to be referring back to for a very long time.
And we survived the haunted house.
Yeah, we survived the haunted house.
I'm telling you, if your spouse is into haunted houses, that's a win right there.
Yeah. So Robert is very loving. He is a wonderful and intimate husband. And I won't say any more about that necessarily, but you know what I mean. Yeah. He's wonderful. He's very, very loving.
Keeping my mouth shut.
And I'll just say this, that he is not repressed in terms of, just being loving in a physical way, which is great, because some people are, and that's very, very sad. You think of loveless marriages and things like that. Well, that's not us. So it's a wonderful thing. I'm very proud of that. Okay. It's a great achievement after 26 years. So it's wonderful.
That's very open of you.
Thank you. We are married, if you've noticed. So I
don't know. We didn't talk about that, and we have the same name, but we could have been brother and sister.
I actually have 6 things that I've written down here.
There are 6?
Sister.
Dang,
no.
You get a gold star.
Yeah. Robert has made bike riding a consistent and highly achieved habit, which has given him strength and much health, which is great, because you know what? Robert's just slightly older than me, and I just feel like, heck, I mean, he's one-upped me with his 36-mile bike rides and just crazy amounts of mileage that he's put on his bike.
Well, Amy, you are a dancer.
Well,
so that's something to keep up with.
That's actually another thing. Robert's been dancing more often, and we often dance in public, to the chagrin of a lot of onlookers.
Well, part of that's because I can't dance. So Amy dances, and I just kind of lead her around.
No, Robert dances.
Thank
and
you.
If you dance, you dance. That's it. Robert has. Here's the one. Robert makes me dinner most of the time. And without him, I probably would not eat.
Well, that doesn't sound very manly, though. I don't know. I guess the great chefs are often men.
I would probably starve. I would probably be nutritionally deficient. So thank you. And then last but not least. What's last
and not least?
Robert has not yet once thrown up his hands and said, "To heck with this podcast." Yeah. Instead, he has carried on despite any challenges, like everything that has upended our lives with COVID, and has not given up. Even if he or I are not at our best, we get it done. And we now have 26 episodes on YouTube.
Well, anybody who gets through this year right away, you deserve mad props for that.
Yes. I mean, this is on top of everything, So if you can put together a new project, plan it out every week, be consistent, not throw your hands up in the air and say forget it. Be here every single week for 26 weeks. That's a real accomplishment, and I just want to say that that's super awesome and sexy.
Well, that's awfully sweet of you to say. And it makes me think I should come up with 5 things that I appreciate about you right off the bat.
I don't expect that. We can do that next time. How about
that?
I
think if I prep ahead of time, I could make them really, really good.
I think the next show that we should do is all going to be about how much you love me and why.
Oh, the Amy episode. Why
not?
And
that's one of the interesting things about being in a marriage.
Yes.
Is that you get to do this whole mutual compliment thing, this mutual admiration society and everything, but in a very, very deep way, because you get to know them a lot. I mean, a lot. And of course, you get to know yourself, and you show who you are. And there's a lot of hopefully in a marriage, there's a lot of communication and a lot of things you know about your partner and appreciate and love about your partner. And so it's not just, you look nice today. No, it's about something super deep. And that kind of experience is worth it. It's so worth it.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Absolutely right.
I've left it speechless.
I'm just trying to determine the proper segue. So...
Jennifer says, swim in the lake. I'm not so sure what you mean.
Swim in the lake. Darn right. Let's go back.
Let's swim in the lake.
Let's go to the 4-mile scenic turnout. So Shakespeare said, William Shakespeare said, love looks not with the eyes, but with the mind, and therefore is winged Cupid painted blind. That's sitting on a Post-it note. This goes on my bathroom mirror this week. I wrote this down years and years ago, I think when I first started reading Ayn Rand again. Love looks not with the eyes, but with the mind, and therefore is winged Cupid painted blind. And that idea that love is primarily a cognitive, psychological, even intellectual thing, and not just being attracted to somebody's appearance, absent their ideas and their virtues and their psychology and their personality and their actual achievements, was very attractive at the time. So that's on a Post-it note, but the meaning of it has changed a bit for me over the years.
Yeah.
And it's one of the reasons why I find myself on a bicycle more often this year, or attending Amy's exercise mornings, or just generally eating better and trying to stay in shape. I've actually lost COVID pounds. I weigh less now than I did when this all started.
Yay!
And that's because love looks with the eyes and the mind. And so you don't want to be a brain in a jar. You do want that mind-body integration.
Yep.
And I don't know that I need to give that advice to the folks who listen to this podcast, because I think that one's pretty well accepted. It's been interesting, though, over the course of my decades on the planet, watching that go back and forth of people saying that, I want a real hottie in my life, and saying, oh, that's terrible. All you really want is somebody with a great mind. And that mind-body integration indicates a great respect for yourself and for your partner. Not just that you enjoy being with somebody who's attractive and in shape, but that you want to be that as an offering to your partner who enjoys that about you. So I still love the quote, and it's on a Post-it. And if you like, you can follow along with me, put it on a Post-it note, put it on your bathroom mirror, and I'll be pondering that over the next 7 days. Love looks not with the eyes, but with the mind, and therefore is winged Cupid painted blind. Your homework for the week is 2 things, or 1 thing. Write down 2 things that you would like to do with your spouse, partner, friend, or family member.
Yeah.
But not just in your head. As I say, don't carry this stuff in your head. Pencil, paper, write it down. Write down 2 things that you would like to do with your spouse, or your partner, or a friend, or family member. Now, everybody is married. Write them down, make them happen. It's kind of related to last week's suggestion of date night.
Yep.
Schedule a date night. This externalization is obvious to people who use a daytime or a planner. And so they're saying, yeah, whatever, I do that all the time. People who don't write things down, I'm going to keep pushing this. Write them down, make them happen. And that's what I wish for you this week.
All right. It looks like Linda's going to be coming to the next GlowCon. And
Well,
Jennifer says hopefully there will be one next year.
There will be one next year. I'm sure there will be one
There
next
has to
year.
be.
If they haven't solved this crisis, then we'll have reached herd immunity by then. One way or another, yeah, there will
Every
be
time I
GlowCon.
hear herd immunity, I'm like, moo.
Ah!
We're just going to devolve into sheep and cows.
Maybe it means we'll be immune to being sheep and cows.
Oh, that
We
sounds
won't
great.
be followers, we'll be independent thinkers.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
herd immunity.
yeah.
We're immune to the herd.
So are you making a toast?
So we're going to make a toast To all of our listeners,
Yes.
you've heard us talk about how we love each other. We love you too.
We love you too. Absolutely.
This goes out to you.
Yes. Thank you.
And with that said, as always, show notes are posted online right after the episode. Past episodes are available at youtube.com/Robert Nasir.
And please like us there and share.
That's right. If you like the show, like the show. And if you want to share the show, share the show. And ring the bell. I don't even know what ring the bell means, but people say ring the bell. I guess that's how you turn on your notifications.
For notifications, yes.
You can share your thoughts and your stories and your ideas about love and marriage at the 5 Minutes with Robert Nasir Facebook group. You can support us not just by liking and sharing the show, you can even contribute at patreon.com/Robert Nasir.
Mm-hmm.
And with that said,
yes,
we do wish you success and we wish you flourishing. And we wish you all the love that you so richly deserve.
yes. Linda says, come to Napa